The Farmer and the Wheat. Once upon a time, in a small village, there was a man named John. John was a farmer, and he lived on a big farm with his wife, Sarah, and their 2 children, Emma and Tom. John loved his farm very much, and every day he worked hard to take care of it. He grew many different kinds of crops, but his favorite crop to grow was wheat. John's farm was not very big, but it was enough to feed his family. The land was rich and the soil was good for planting. John knew that to have a successful farm, he needed to plant the right crops at the right time. Wheat was one of the most important crops on his farm because it gave him enough food to sell in the market, and it also provided food for his family. Every year, when the winter was over and the weather became warmer, John would start planting wheat. He would walk through the fields, carrying bags of seeds in his hands, and scatter them on the soil. The sun would shine brightly, and the rain would come at just the right times to help the wheat grow tall and strong. John's wife, Sarah, helped him on the farm as much as she could. She took care of the animals, like cows and chickens, and she made sure the house was clean, and the children were well fed. Emma and Tom also helped their parents. They were still young, but they enjoyed helping their father water the plants and collect the eggs from the chickens. The wheat grew well in the spring, and by the summer, it was ready to be harvested. John would wake up early in the morning, when the sun was just rising, and go to the fields with his tools. He would use a sickle to cut the wheat, and then he would gather it into big bundles. The wheat was golden and shining in the sunlight. It was hard work, but John was strong and used to it. After the wheat was harvested, John would take it to the mill. The mill was a small building near the river, where workers would grind the wheat into flour. John would then sell the flour at the local market. The money he earned from selling the flour was very important for his family. It allowed them to buy things they needed, like clothes, food, and other things for the farm. John was very proud of his work. He knew that his hard work was what made his family's life possible. Every year, he would save some of the money he earned to improve the farm. He bought new tools and built a bigger barn for his animals. He also planted more wheat to make sure that he had enough to sell and feed his family. But life was not always easy for John. There were times when the weather was not good, and the crops didn't grow as well as he hoped. Sometimes there was not enough rain, or there was too much rain. There were even times when pests, like insects and rats, would damage the crops. John always had to find ways to solve these problems. One year, there was a terrible drought. The weather was so dry that the wheat didn't grow as tall as it should have. John was very worried. He didn't have enough wheat to sell, and he wasn't sure how he was going to feed his family. But John didn't give up. He worked even harder to find ways to save water for the crops. He dug small channels in the fields to bring water from the river, and he used every drop carefully. Sarah also helped. She baked bread with the little flour they had, and they ate it with simple meals of vegetables and eggs from their chickens. Emma and Tom helped by collecting wood for the fire and doing little chores around the farm. The drought lasted for several months, but John and his family never lost hope. They knew that they had to keep working hard to survive. Slowly, the weather started to change. The rains returned, and the wheat began to grow again. By the end of the year, John had enough wheat to sell, and his family could buy more food and supplies. That year, John realized something important. It wasn't just the wheat that made his family's life possible. It was also their hard work, patience, and love for each other. John knew that as long as they kept working together, they would always find a way to overcome any problem. The next year, John planted even more wheat. He used the lessons he had learned from the drought and worked even smarter. The weather was better, and the crops grew well. This time, the harvest was plentiful, and John was able to sell more wheat than ever before. With the money he earned, he bought a new plow and repaired the roof of their house. John's family continued to live happily on the farm. They worked hard every day, but they also made time to enjoy each other's company. They had dinner together every night, and they often sat outside in the evenings, watching the stars and talking about their dreams. One day, John sat on the porch of his house, looking out at the fields of golden wheat. He smiled and thought about all the hard work he had done. He was proud of the life he had built with his family. John knew that no matter what challenges came their way, they would always have each other, and that was the most important thing of all. And so, John, Sarah, Emma, and Tom continued to live on the farm, working together and taking care of their land. They knew that as long as they worked hard and took care of each other, they would always be able to live a good life, full of love and happiness.
Please like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe.